Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Waking to the New Dawn morning chats. And we're having fun with these. I have to say, Kristin and I are really enjoying the time that we get to spend with each other and with all of you. And this morning, I'm going to just pause for a few moments so Kristin can say hi, and then I will bring the topic forward.
Hi. Yeah, thank you everyone who's either joining us live or listening at another time. We are enjoying these conversations, and I think what we're enjoying most is that they're really impromptu. We're just sort of stepping in to the energy of the day and allowing the conversation to come forward, very organically. So, I mean, we have a few ideas that might be floating in our minds, but we're not entirely sure exactly everything we're going to talk about today, right?
Right. And what's interesting about this whole process is that when she and I meet just prior to this time to just get organized, do the tech things, we start talking about it. We have to control ourselves because we've found in the past that when we go down that road before we actually are sharing with people, that a lot of good ideas come out and they don't always.
We lose a little bit of that organic nature. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's take a few deep breaths, maybe bring palms together at heart center, and find a comfortable position, whatever that might be. And we'll close our eyes and just tuck our chin. Inhale deeply through the nostrils. Maybe exhale through the mouth with a sigh. Or deep inhales and exhales through the nostrils, letting the body begin to feel complete and soft. And we'll just take a moment or two to breathe. Deep inhale, pause the breath for a moment. Feeling the energy flowing through the body. Getting a sense of our community. And exhale. Blink the eyes open, and we are ready to dive into a topic that came forward on Facebook, and we saw this post in lots of different threads in many different communities. So it came forward all at the same time around the solar eclipse or a few days after, and you may have seen it. So when Kristin and I started having a conversation around what's today going to bring, this popped up. And let me read it to you. It's actually two parts. And for those of you that have done some work with the self and looking outward and then inward and then outward again, this might feel familiar. The first part is this: I am not what you think I am. I'll say that with a smile again. I am not what you think I am. And the second part is, you are what you think I am. So let's just take a moment to integrate that into our thoughts. Maybe get a sense of how that landed with you. I am not what you think I am. You are what you think I am. So now that we probably have examples of both of those swirling around in our head, because all of us live this every day, and some of us think about it more often than others, and some of us are detached and it doesn't seem to be part of the real world to them. And you can fall into one of those two categories, or maybe your own category, or the middle of that. Or it might be, it depends. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the person that you actually is. So if you put someone's name in there instead of the pronoun you, it might feel a lot different. And so when I first saw this post, and I know Kristin has some thoughts about how it landed with her as well, I'll just share a couple little things. One is, I looked at that and went, yes, I want to like that. And then I thought, no, I want to love that. And then I thought, no, I want the care. And then I went to, well, maybe I need the grumpy face. I ran the whole gamut when I read that, within just a few minutes. And then I sat back and I thought, okay, I'm going to go with the simple like. Just leave it there and hold it for later. So as I saw it coming through different threads through the week, what was underneath those statements really started to emerge in a way that it was so aligned and misaligned at the same time with my value system. Yeah. And so, yeah, Kristin's shaking her head. What just prompted you? What did you get?
So in itself, those words in itself are a very, very deep truth. Very deep truth. Mirroring, projecting thoughts, judgments. And one of the things I was thinking about is even our own thoughts, even the thoughts of who I think I am aren't really who I am sometimes, even my own thoughts. That goes even deeper, right? But I was kind of like you. That post showed up in a few different places. I shared it, I shared it in the Waking group, and then someone shared, my post. But I didn't write anything. I was kind of like you. I'm just going to let this land. I just shared the graphic. I just shared the post by itself. I didn't add any of my own words to it. Mm-hmm. I just left it. I noticed that someone, had shared the post. I hopped over to peek at it, and they wrote something. They shared their thoughts. Like Facebook asked us to, regarding the post. And this person said, and this may not be exactly word for word, but it pretty much was deep truth here, especially all of you who don't think kindly of me. And then I thought, but now you just took that and you just did what the post is bringing to our awareness, like she put that negative spin on it. Yeah, everybody, all you people, all you haters out there, better read this truth. You know what I mean? But then you just did what it's like. I understand what you were saying. Your response to, do I like it? Do I not even like it? Do I love it? Do I care? Am I sad? Am I angry? And that's why when I shared the post, I didn't make any comment about it. I just sort of left it there.
Right. But what's interesting is that we did pass it on. And so it becomes very thought-provoking. And when I dove into my own value system and went, how how am I feeling misaligned with this? And I realized a couple words came right away bubbling to the surface. One was, oh, look at the judgment. First of all, like you said, you don't really sometimes even know who you are because it's a veil of illusion. We call it Maya. Maya is that illusion. We have that wrapped around ourselves, so we don't often, many times, see ourselves clearly. So how can we know if someone else sees us clearly? And then,
Impossible, right?
yeah, and often we hear that other people see us more clear or clearer than we see ourselves. Now, is there truth in that as well? Not sure. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a very, very deep truth. And the one thing that it sparked in me, because I felt like the post could have gone like you very said very well first on, probably landed with lots of people in lots of different ways. Um, and these two options aren't the only ways, but I felt like you could have taken that post and then, like this one person, yeah, like take it outwardly on all the other people. Hey, everybody, you need to look at this and not do this. I took it a little more inwardly and kind of asked myself, where am I doing this with all the people who in my world? Where am I creating a judgment, creating a truth, creating a narrative around other people? Where am I doing that? But ultimately, it took me back to when you and I first started doing Awaken to the New Dawn, which will be 4 years in June.
You can,
Sometimes I would pass along some channeled messages of one of my dear and cherished, mentors from years past that were coming through at that very volatile time of 2020. And one of the messages that came through that I shared, passed on into our audience, was this message that simply said, mind your own business. And it brought me back to that message of how, in this awakening process, this waking to the new dawn, which is coming back to the remembrance of who we are as soul, getting in touch with our own inner self, our own inner guidance, living by our own inner authority, and just listening from within, connecting from within. We have so much work to do in our own being and in that own relationship with our own truth, and worrying about, like just being that and doing that for ourselves, that we really need to be reminded to kind of take our eyes off of what everyone else is doing it and how they're doing it and what we think they should be doing better, or how, just minding our own business.
yes. And it's interesting you brought that up. I was just circling the word what in these two statements that I hadn't really thought about before. I am not what you think I am. Is that an object? Is that an external impression that is there? What happened to the word who? I'm
Yeah, that's interesting.
who. Yeah, I'm not who you think I am. And then that goes on to the second statement. You are who you think I am. And if you just substitute who for what, then we start thinking about the inner truth that you were talking about, going inward. We all have that, and aligning ourselves in a way that we're not judging others because we're minding our own business, right? It's enough work to know who we are and how we express that without going into what I see maybe is the roots of gossip,
Yeah.
where now all of a sudden I'm making a judgment about who that person or what that person is, what it is. And then that
Yeah.
next step is, well, do you share that? Do you talk about it with other people? How does that happen? And maybe that goes back to the person that made the comment that you mentioned when we first started, that they took it right away that, look, haters, read this and learn, right?
Maybe. And then, but then I'm also marrying that onto that person, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, in looking at my value system, and that's really what I can do with this, is to look at, I'll say, who I am now rather than what I am.
Yeah.
Because
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. We're both excited about this topic.
Yeah. Well, it's unfolding, right? It's a deep dive. I was listening to, I don't, I really do try to do the inner work and do the inner journey and use that for my like navigational, you know, compass through life.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is I don't follow like a lot of people. I don't listen, but there's one person in this time in my life for the past couple years who is someone who I'm learning from. Her work really resonates with me. She was talking, I was listening to her talk about something yesterday, and she just brought in this little piece of information, and I'm not going to relay it exactly. And it's a little bit deep, but she was talking about how, like, there was the origin of source energy, oneness, like when oneness actually was oneness, there was just one source energy, one source. And she was talking about how, like, of the time of like Christ consciousness, that really that was an example of the individualization of source energy. And that just a reminder that we are now all, each and every one of us on this planet, we are now all an individualization of source energy. We are all source. We are all God. We are all the universe, whatever word it is that you identify with, that one power. We are now the individualization of that one power. And that is unity consciousness. And oneness is the awareness of we are all source, having unique individuated experiences, but we are all that one. So when we humbly can step into that awareness, it's very difficult, because how many eons ago was it that there was just one source, and now it's all these personalities of this one source, right? It's the concept is simple, but the living of it is very challenging because we've never done it before sometimes.
Well, and that goes back to what you were saying about the first is to find the self within you, and the what might be the soul, or we call it the Atman, that connection to the divine consciousness. And the illusion that's wrapped around that is the illusion of us being in a body living on this planet, because it creates a dynamic external environment that we're always trying to process. Even in our dreams, we're working through those things.
Right.
Yeah. And there was something else that prompted a thought that you said, that this is also part of that illusion is to try to prove ourself. And I'll go back to the statement, what we are, but I really like the who word better. Prove ourself, who we are. Let people see our divine nature, see our soul. Let that be the expression of how we participate on the planet. And that whole act of trying to prove that then creates an illusion for others. So we're caught in this web I mean,
Yeah.
some would say the matrix, but if we just think of it as a web of illusion
Yeah.
where we are trying to figure it out and come to wholeness and oneness
Hmm.
so that we can move on to our next experience, whatever that might be.
Toward or working towards or dreaming towards what, however you want to conceptualize it. If we can just envision and imagine a global community of people all living their truth and allowing everyone else to do the same. Could you just imagine like the peace and the acceptance of just worrying about living your own truth and allowing others to do the same? And the thing about living your own truth is, and maybe we can pick this up with our next conversation, your truth, as you go into deeper and deeper connection with yourself and coming into alignment with that truth and living that truth, your truth will evolve as your awareness evolves.
Right, and that is their dharma
So,
path. That's what their
right,
purpose is, to be here to work
right,
through circumstances around that particular
exactly.
activity or way of thought or perception. And
Yeah,
so you're right. It's stay. I'll go back to what my son always says: "Stay in your own lane, mom."
yeah, mind
You
your own
know?
business.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really tricky because we get splashed from both sides.
Well, yeah, and that doesn't mean that we no longer, because some of that could put you almost into a hermit mode. Well, I'm just going to mind my own business. I'm going to live my own truth. It doesn't take us away, though, from relating to other people, interacting with other people, learning how to collaborate with other people, do group work,
That's right.
do have even differences of perspectives and opinions and approaches, and also being able to take a stand for your truth. So there's all these other like parts of it that doesn't necessarily dismiss us from being in connection and relationship with other people.
And I think that's the foundation for detachment. And we hear about detachment a lot when we start looking at self and how we are here on the earth and what we're here to do. And it's still being involved,
Yeah.
but being involved with a shifted perspective.
Detachment and discernment, and maybe we can talk about those next, because as your awareness expands, your discernment also expands, because that is the filter kind of from the head to the heart, from the logic, to the soul. And I've even been noticing, like in my own life, I've been refining that my own voice, like maybe things I was doing or thinking I should do, seeing those little threads of ego, like, oh, I always thought that I should be doing that, but why am I really doing that? And I mean, that sometimes that thread,
Yes.
there's a lot of grayness sometimes between the head and the heart and the logic and the soul. And so discernment and detachment are those are the couple of the key principles that help us get there.
Yeah, I made a note while you were talking, so we have it. We
Yeah.
have it for the next time. The thing that I would like to just add one more thing because we're almost out of time is that it struck me when you were just speaking, and I was taking a note, that the ego has a language, and one of its favorite words is should.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about when that comes up, that brings us right back to this post,
Mm-hmm.
right back to it, because the ego is involved in vibrating that response to those two statements.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's breaking out into the new is it's not an easy journey, you
right, a
know.
new is a new shift. It's a perspective,
Yeah.
and we can just turn it a little bit
Yeah.
and look at
And
it
it's
another way. Hmm.
and it's new as in we've never done this before. So
Right.
have a lot of grace and compassion for yourselves as well as others, but start with self.
This has been a really invigorating chat this morning.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the time that we are able to have with each other and with others. And this will be a recording, so it will be available hopefully within the next day or two. I'll get that up and I'll post it on the Waking site, Waking to the New Dawn page. And I wish everyone a joyful sunny day. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste, everyone.